Welcome into another edition of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. I'm Kyle Glaser alongside a freshly sun-kissed Mike Cameron back from the Bahamas. Mike, Padres took care of business against the Pirates, rallying on Sunday to win the finale, taking 2 of 3 overall in the series. The Padres have now won 3 consecutive series. Look, they haven't all been pretty. They haven't all been smooth. They haven't all been easy. But at the end of the day, wins are wins. They count the same, and the Padres are getting the job done.
Definitely. I mean, they went up against a Pirate team that's uh, competing at best, and they have some good pitchers. With that being said, the Padres were able to, come out on top in some games that, didn't look good for them because this is another sign of a good team when you're able to um, be down and come back in the sixth, seventh, eighth inning, and be able to vault your team into a position to win ball games, especially against a Pirates team that's kind of been struggling pretty much. They done went through some changes already, but for the Padres, it's been really good, and they got a chance, and they did it too. I mean, the one loss you took was against Schemes, I guess. So, other than that, it was pretty good situation.
It was actually against Bailey Falter. The Padres missed schemes
Oh, but
this
I'm
game.
sorry, left it. They left it. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Falter.
I'm sorry.
But no, nonetheless, you're no problem. Nonetheless, you make a good point. I think that sometimes you look around and say, "Man, why are we falling behind to teams like the Marlins and the Pirates?" But at the end of the day, it comes back to what's the score at the end of the ninth inning. There's going to be all different ways to win ball games, and one of the things we've seen with this Padres team, and I've talked about this, we've talked about this ad nauseum, is their resilience and their composure late in games and their ability to come back. So the Padres are 33 and 24. 16 of their 33 wins have been come from behind wins. 12 wins have come in games in which they were tied or trailing in the seventh inning. So nearly half
Yeah.
their wins have been come from behind, and more than a third of their wins have come in games where they're tied and trailing in the seventh inning. What does that
Yeah.
say to you about a team when you see a team that is able to come back like that again and again and again? What does that tell you about a team?
I mean, for the most part, it just tells me the resilience of the team and what they're capable of doing, on a nightly basis because they don't swing and miss very much. So they're putting the ball in play. And, if you can get a few guys on base by, putting the ball in play, that gives you an opportunity. The one thing I always hate when I see when I go on to X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it is people say, "Oh, this team should blow this team out because they look at the record," but they don't understand that these guys are part of the 700 or maybe 800 men that are playing the game today at the highest level. Just because their team is not showing up, on a nightly basis as you would like for them to, but there are reasons behind the records of where teams are. Some are more talent based, and the other ones are just result driven. And obviously, when you have a team like the Padres, have a few guys that can get it done on a nightly basis. And if they're able to do that throughout the lineup and show some type of resilience and consistency, then you're going to pretty much come out on top at the end. My old manager Lou Pinelli used to tell us all the time when we had those good teams back in Seattle in the early 2000s. He used to say, the only way that you can beat a team that didn't have a record like yours, that you're supposed to beat them, if you don't keep your foot on their neck throughout the game. That
Yeah.
meaning that means catching the ball, making it hard for them to score. When you get your opportunity, make sure you capitalize on it. And they'll fall back down to the record that they are in at
Yeah.
some particular point in the game. And as I continue to look at the game, and I was like, whatever, man, and then you start looking at the game and you start playing the game in that manner, you start to see, and the record starts to show in the matter of the way your team plays on a nightly basis.
No question about it. And again, this is a Padres team that they certainly get creative sometimes in their ways to win,
Yeah.
falling behind early, but we have seen the formula work for them throughout the season. The bullpen holds the line, the offense gets time to come back, and more often than not, they're able to punch through. As we mentioned, they've won 3 straight series. They are 6 and 3 in their last 9 games. All 6 of those wins have been come from behind wins. And what really stands out, and I think we saw this once again, particularly in the Sunday finale against the Pirates, down 4-1 in the sixth, coming back to win 6-4. It's that composure late in games in the batter's box. And that is a trait that not every team has and should not be taken for granted and is so, so, so important. We saw they're down 4-1. Luis Arias, of course, at the center of everything, gets it started with a double.
Yeah.
Jackson Merrill doubles him home. Both of those at bats, by the way, off Andrew Heaney, left on left, two doubles to get cut it to 4-2. Good at bats there. And then the seventh inning, I thought it was just a really, really impressive showcase of what the Padres do well in terms of
Yeah.
those, again, you're down 4-2 against a
Yeah.
Pirate team that you should beat at home, staring down the barrel of losing a series in embarrassing fashion. It gets very, very easy for teams to start pressing, for guys to start getting jumpy, for guys to start expanding the zone and maybe start trying to do too much. And that's not what the Padres did. Tanner Rainey's on the mound, a guy who throws very hard, but will spray it right off the
Yeah.
bat. They're patient, they're composed. Xander Bogaerts draws the leadoff walk. Jake Cronenworth works ahead in the count, hits a hard, line drive. It's just right at Brian Reynolds. Jose Iglesias bounces back from an 0-2 count to draw a walk. Elias Diaz, falls behind 1-2, gets a pitch to hit, doesn't try to do too much. Hard single back up the middle, boom, 4-3. I actually thought the most impressive at bat in the entire inning was Fernando Tatis Jr. coming up with runners on first and second. Look, Tatis has been struggling, and what he's been struggling with has been swinging at pitches, particularly breaking balls, down and away and below the zone. What does Tanner Rainey do? Throws him 4 sliders down and away below the zone. Tatis, every single one of them. If this at bat was a week ago, Tatis strikes out on 3 pitches. But he's starting to reel it in after really struggling with strikeouts and swinging and missing. He's gone 5 straight games without a strikeout now. And I thought that at bat was really, really indicative of, hey, he's reining it back in. He's seeing the ball better. That sets up, bases loaded, and voila, our man Luis Arias again ties it up with a single to left. Manny Machado comes up, sac fly to deep center, just missed a grand slam, gives the Padres the lead 5-4. And by the way, they weren't done. Jackson Merrill again comes out, draws another walk, doesn't take the bat off the shoulder because he knows Tanner Rainey can't throw a strike. And then Tyler Wade comes in, gets another single. I mean, just really, really good, composed at bats, disciplined at bats late in games. That to me is the sign of a mature, composed team. And look, you cannot take that for granted. And that is a big, big reason why the Padres continue to come back again and again and again, is they never lose their cool. They don't start swinging from their shoes. And look, we've seen previous Padres teams do that plenty. There's a lot of other teams in Major League Baseball right now who do that plenty. This is the Padres' strength and a big reason why why they have 16 come from behind wins this season.
Definitely. I mean, Kyle, one of the biggest things, as you said, like as a player, and when you've played for a while, you start to understand that, okay, I'm struggling a little bit. So let me find out something else, take it down to ground level and find out what is going on. What's the reason why I'm struggling in the way I'm doing? So, in the case of Tatis, he understood that, like, man, I can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. So let me just go up here and get a better view of the ball. The better you see the ball, the more opportunity, the better that you see it, the later that you're able to pick it up, the more opportunities you're going to be able to well strike the baseball. And in Tatis' case, he's like, man, he went 0 for 3 with a walk, but he scored a run, and that walk turned into something very big in the inning, in the 7th inning, of them scoring 4 runs in that inning. So, those like little things like that over the course of time, guys are going to go up and down. They're going to have a stretch of 10, 15, maybe sometimes 20 at bats where, it's just not going well. And then it may be going well where you're just not getting any hits. But if you continue to walk, during that time, if that's a part of your game, then you're going to put yourself in a good position to start getting better pitches to hit. And also in his case right now, Tatis was the prototypicals of what you're supposed to do. Is always say it all the time, and they laugh at me all the time because I say these easy words: get on the base, get on the base, find a way to get on the base. Yeah, it means if I get on the base, that means the pitcher got to go in the stretch, the rhythm changes, everything changes up. And so, and then you just find ways to play the game the way it's supposed to be played within the game in itself. And then if you have those guys that you start putting people on base, Manny Machado is known for a known run producer who understands that he don't have to hit the ball at the ballpark to score runs. All he has to do is try to find a space and hit a line drive somewhere, which he does very well, and it always pays off in the long run, especially when you got some guys that can run a little bit at the top of the lineup.
No question about it. All right, Mike, we have a lot more to talk about, including a couple key players. We talked about Tatis, but also looking at Manny Machado, Jackson Merrill, and how they're starting to find their rhythm at a really, really good time with the Padres coming up against a very, very difficult schedule here to get June kicked off. We're going to talk about all that and more after this quick word from our sponsors.
FT fan, by now, you know if you're buying, selling, trading, collecting cards, Arena Club is the spot. We've been talking about them all season long, but I do want to focus on the slab pack experience, Kratz, since you've been ripping some slab packs digitally. And what happens?
I mean, as a kid, you wanted to rip open the packs. How can they do this digitally? Oh, baby. This is exciting. How the graphics come out and everything. And oh, yeah, the card that you pull, you can actually get that, John, physically. So it's perfect. It's all in one place, and it's a super exciting experience.
Yeah, they send that to you from the vault if you want it. But if you look at it and you're like, it's not the card for me, I want to sell it back, go for it. You can do any of that on Arena Club, and you can acquire the best value for your money with those slab packs, transparent checklists, and Arena Club's Slab Safe program. Right now, you can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/FAL and use code FAL. arenaclub.com/FAL. Use code FAL.
All right, welcome back to Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. I'm Kyle Glaser alongside the great Mike Cameron. Mike, we've talked a lot about the Padres and the fact that, again, they're finding ways to win. They have 3 straight series wins against the Braves, Marlins, and Pirates. All of those teams are sub 500, and you have to take care of business against teams like that. The schedule is about to get a lot tougher. Their next 17 games come against the Giants, Brewers, Dodgers, and Diamondbacks. 14 interdivision games. 14 of those 17 games are on the road. This is going to be a pivotal stretch for the Padres. On the one hand, you understand, look, it's still June. There's still more than 100 games left. You don't want to go crazy and over the top and say that if something goes well, they're clearly going to make the playoffs, or it goes poorly, they're clearly going to miss the playoffs. At the same time, you understand things are starting to get more real, and this is a pivotal stretch. How do you look at a stretch like this where, yes, it's early, but you also understand this is a very, very, very important time where if it does go poorly, you can dig yourself a hole, and if it does go well, you can give yourself a really nice cushion.
Yeah, I mean, the Cal, when you look at the situation here in June, man, they look the whole month, you talked about this first part of the stretch. This whole month is pretty tough. And I wouldn't sleep on KC and Washington, who's playing very well. As I've been watching them play against Seattle a little bit and some other teams. They play well against these teams. But, in San Diego's case, you're gonna have a tough series against the Giants. Look, Milwaukee's playing well. They've won like 3 or 4 in a row, and now they're starting to find their little 7
They've been
in a row.
really rolling. Yeah.
I just looked at the last 3. They beat up on Philly, and then you got LA. So I mean, so like the first part of this series on the road is trying to get off to a good start against the San Francisco Giants, which you faced them 4 times in their place. Hopefully you can get out of there no less than a split, but more so you're trying to win the series still, although it's a 4-game series. But you're trying to do that because you're going to go to the Midwest and play against a Milwaukee team that's playing very well, and then you come back home and play a Dodger team that's it's going to be crazy at this time of year. And I think with all this being said, you're in the midst of a 26
games in 27 days. Yeah, starting with the Pirates Friday, 26 and 27. No, it's a gauntlet. And that's where, again, this is one of those situations where for the Padres, it's not hyperbole to say this is a pivotal stretch, because if they come out of the 17-game stretch in particular, 5 and 12 or something, that they're going to be in a tough spot, especially how many interdivision games they have. And like you mentioned, it doesn't get any easier after this stretch. Kansas City has a winning record. The Nationals are an exciting young team. And oh, by the way, they finished the month with the Phillies. So I would say if you're the Padres, look, realistically, of course, it'd be great if you go 14-3, 15-2, but I think that would
Yeah,
certainly be, difficult. I really think if they can even just go 9-8, dare I even say 8-9 in this stretch, you take it
yeah.
as a win. You're on the road, you're facing good teams. If you can just come out of it 500-ish and keep pace, you're in a good spot.
Definitely. I mean, you got two teams that well, I don't want to say you're chasing them, but you're in the midst of them.
Yeah,
Arizona's kind of falling back a little bit, but the
yeah,
Dodgers in San Francisco, they got a stronghold in their prospective spots in the division. So, um, it's going to be tough against LA. So, the focus is, as we look at this overall, the schedule, as we look at it as from our perspective, from a fan base standpoint, the
yeah,
players, the only thing they can focus on is today against the San Francisco Giants and try to win game one of the series and continue to roll that and try to play a consistent game throughout the series against them because it's going to be tough. San Francisco plays well at home. They're known for a lot of one-run ball games at home. They're a comeback team at home, and you have to acknowledge that, but understand that you got to compete very much so against a team like San Francisco Giants because they're finding a way to get it done.
yeah.
Even though they're missing, one of their killers of a pitcher, but they are solid, man. They are solid across the board, and so the health again is going to be very important during this stretch for the San Diego Padres, and hopefully, you can get 3 or 4 guys that can get it swinging pretty well. As you said, Manny seems to be finding his. I mean, not Manny. Tatis seems to be finding his way back, and obviously, man, if that is happening, then you got a good chance to do some damage, against anyone because these are the times you find out about what kind of team you have, but also, the health and taking care of guys is going to be really important. Where at 26 out of 27 games, man, that's a stretch.
Yeah.
You got some kind of some older guys that you got to try to rest their legs a little bit.
Yeah.
Not older, but very veteran based and experienced when you're starting to do the type of playing that they're playing in that stretch now. That's old style. They don't really do that very much anymore. But this is the gauntlet of 162 games, man, where you got to earn your keep. And obviously, this June stretch for them is a very big month for the San Diego Padres.
No question about it. And you mentioned health. Michael King went on the injured list with shoulder inflammation. It was later revealed he has a pinched nerve. Still no firm timetable for his return. We'll see when he's able to get back. Yu Darvish, obviously, as we've discussed, has yet to pitch this season. He came back from his most recent rehab start, said his elbow felt tight. He played catch last Monday, but still no timetable for his return. And of course, Gavin Sheets running hard into the wall going after that Adam Frazier home run yesterday. He came out of
Yeah.
the game. He's in concussion protocol. Certainly, something you want to keep an eye on. He's also suffered a little bit of a hip injury as well. So he hasn't officially been placed on the IL yet. We'll see what the Padres choose to do. Obviously, if he's able to come back sooner rather than later, that's a huge addition to their lineup. But again, when it's a head injury, potentially you don't want to mess with it. So hopefully he's okay. But even with those injuries, and they are concerning, and they are something the Padres are going to have to watch, Mike, I think one of the things that's been really, really encouraging over these last 4 or 5 games in particular, I would even really say 5 to 10 games, depending on what player we're talking about, we're starting to see the Padres stars really kick back into gear after each of them went through, a little bit of a slump or a little bit of a bad stretch. We've talked about
Yeah.
Fernando Tatis Jr. He's reached base in 5 straight games. He hasn't struck out in 5 straight games. The latter fact, I think, is really, really important given when he's not going well. We were seeing a lot of strikeouts, a lot of swings and misses. But the other thing
Yeah.
about Tatis that I think is really encouraging is he's starting to run again. His stolen base against the Marlins in the finale last Wednesday, that was his first stolen base attempt in more than 3 weeks. Then we saw him steal third against the Pirates in the opener 2 days later. I just think it's a really, really good sign that Fernando Tatis Jr. is starting to run again because the best version of Fernando Tatis Jr., the most impactful version of Fernando Tatis Jr., is a guy who's, yes, hitting home runs, making great catches, but he's also running wild on the bases, whether it's stealing bases, going first to third. We saw him score from first on Luis Arias's double and on the Friday game. He took off early there, got a great jump, and was able to come around and score. we saw him slow it down a little bit after that shoulder injury in Sacramento, but him starting to run again, combined with he's getting on base, he's not striking out. I have a feeling we're going to see Fernando Tatis Jr. break out of his slump here in a big way soon, because we're starting to see some of the little things to set him up for success start to come back.
Yeah, as you said, the best version of Tatis is when he's dangerous with the bat and also dangerous on the bags, and that is pivotal for this team. Like, you need to have Tatis. If you're going to have him at the top of the lineup, then you got to start moving, moving around a little bit, not really waiting around for things to happen. I don't know what was the reason why he didn't run a whole lot in that stretch or whatever it may have been. But, like, the legs, man, they never stop moving. They never stop working. So if you can get on base, to be aggressive on the bags, that is very helpful for the team. You start to put the game in motion, the rhythm comes to your team a lot better than
Yeah.
you being stagnant when your guys are not getting base hits. When you start putting people in motion, good things happen when that transpires. I'm sorry to the analytics department or whatever it is. Like, that part of the game, man, is something that it's not like you got to run, crazy, but when you started to steal bags and you started just attempt stealing stolen bases, it starts to put the game in motion. It starts to
Yep.
put the other team on notice, and definitely pitching starts to change a little bit, and holes start to open up. So, I'm all for it, man. I like when I see a guy like Tatis, a la Julio Rodriguez, when if you're not slugging, then if you're walking and you're getting singles, man, use those legs that you get a chance to. It may be something that gets your body going, and you get that rhythm going when you start to slide and get in the dirt and you start looking like a little leaguer all over again, man. So it's important. I think it's important for the team, for Tatis to have that kind of energy. And if he can get out to a good start and start moving around on the bases, that's definitely a good sign. It definitely bodes well if Tatis is running and he got a rise hit behind him who can slash and do everything, because he's not going to walk a whole lot. You got to throw the ball to the backstop to walk a ride. So he's going to put the bat on in some type of way. And then, once again, when you have those things going in, and then you slide Manny Machado, who's he's a professor at at understanding how to drive in runs, and that makes the game easier for everyone else, for Merrill and Sheets, and and Bogarts and Cronenworth, all the other guys that are farther down in the lineup.
No question about it. And we talk so much about how important the top half of this lineup is for the Padres and how those guys have to make an impact. And like I said, we're starting to see everyone kind of find their rhythm and start clicking at the same time, which we hadn't seen for a little bit. I mentioned Tatis Arraez had the go-ahead and game-tying RBI singles in the comeback against the Marlins earlier in the week. And of course, yesterday, he gets the rally started with that double in the sixth, comes through again with the game-tying RBI single again in the seventh. Jackson Merrill has hits in 8 of his last 9 games, and Manny Machado has been finding the power in a big way. He homered again on Sunday. Machado has 4 home runs in 9 games. And look, I don't think there was any concern about Manny Machado when he was hitting 340, but he only had 3 home runs, because he was having good at bats. He was hitting balls hard. He was using the whole field. You knew it was just a matter of time. I think what's been really impressive about Manny Machado, and we've talked about this a lot, but I think it's because it deserves to be talked about and he deserves the credit, is we're seeing him again just have that focus, that engagement, that energy more consistently this year than we have. I go back to the game in Toronto where he made errors on back-to-back plays. It opened up the door in the 7th inning to turn a 2-0 loss into a 14-0 loss. Some of the effort on his defensive plays was really, really concerning. And he's really, really bounced back again against Atlanta. He came back, had a couple big home runs, had another big home run against Miami to force extra innings and help lift the Padres to win there. Last night, again, or yesterday afternoon, I should say, gets him started with another home run, has the go-ahead sac fly where he just missed a grand slam. He just missed that. I give Manny Machado a lot of credit for, again, just saying, hey, had a bad game, shaking it off, and coming back with a renewed energy, a renewed focus, and that level of engagement that when he is at, he is one of the 5 to 10 best players in baseball. It's just he doesn't always show it. But I want to give him credit. We're seeing the maturity, and that's bearing itself out in the results. Again, 4 homers in his last 9 games, all of them in big, big, big spots. It's been really, really impressive to see what Manny Machado's been doing. And as we've talked about, as the Padres head into this brutal 17-game stretch and this brutal June, you have Tatis getting right. Arias is hitting in big spots. Merrill's really been heating up. And Machado, we're seeing the best version of Manny Machado. In some ways, I wouldn't say in some ways, this is where you want the Padres to be heading into this stretch with all these key guys really starting to find their strokes.
Yeah, anytime you got one of your key guys, and a guy like Manny Machado that's holding his own per se, with the team, it just bodes well for the rest of the team in itself, and because everyone kind of leans on Manny to try to get the job done, and he doesn't really stress himself about doing it because he know he's capable of doing it on a nightly basis, and
Yeah.
the biggest thing is making sure that he's healthy and in a good mind space so he can continue to lead the team the way he's supposed to, with the help along with the Tatises and the Rises and the Merrills and Bogarts. I'll keep bringing up Bogart because this guy's a championship caliber player. May not have the numbers like he used to have, but he understands mentally what it's all about. So and so that's a big thing, and it just allows once again a guy like Sheets to fall in behind all of those guys and do what he's done to contribute in the way he's done. So it just helps out over the course of the season and a series in itself. You're going in and get some tough starters over here with the San Francisco Giants. So it's going to be a battle. I can see it. But you also, we talk about the offense so much that we got to give, Padres, their pitching staff on the whole has held their own against a lot of these big swinging ball clubs also.
No question about it. I actually thought the Sunday finale was really, really encouraging because we've talked about, you feel good about kind of the core four in the bullpen with Jeremiah Estrada, Audrey Morjon, Jason Adam, Robert Suarez, but the Padres have been looking for some other guys in the bullpen to step up. The Padres bullpen threw 5 2/3 scoreless innings yesterday, allowing only one hit. Again, buying time for the offense to come back. And it was a lot of the guys who had blown the Wednesday game against Miami. We talk about relievers have to have short memories. And these guys stepped up and did it. Wandy Peralta, an inning and 2/3 scoreless. David Morgan, an inning and 2/3 scoreless. Jason Adam, who had been struggling coming in, throwing a scoreless inning. And Suarez locking it down. Really, since Eli White's base running blunder, Robert Suarez has kind of found it again. Again, kind of took a deep breath and everything has clicked back into place. So I want to give these guys credit to, again, Peralta, Morgan, Adam. All these guys have been struggling. Their last outings have been ugly. Short memory, put it behind them, come out, deliver scoreless frames. And that's what allows the Padres so often to come back. We talk about over and over and over this offense, that resilience, but they wouldn't be in position to do it if the bullpen doesn't hold the line. And we've seen that. Again, there have been hiccups over the course of the year. Every team is going to have them, but more often than not, they're holding the line. And especially seeing the supplementary guys like Peralta, like David Morgan to call up, come in and do that. It's really, really impressive and bodes really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things I see when I see their bullpen comes in and they are trying to hold a lead or trying to keep it steady so they can have a chance to come back. They don't walk people, so you're either putting the ball in play and they're throwing strikes, so you have to be aggressive. And sometimes that can be used against you from a hitter's standpoint. When a guy's going to be throwing strikes, you may get a couple swings outside of the zone where you get some weak contact. So that is boded very well for them. One of the things that, as we talk about the pitching and the staff in itself in this stretch they're having right now, is going to be critical and pivotal to be in, bullpen management when you play this type of stretch of games against the type of caliber of teams that you're playing. So the stress level is going to be up. So it's going to take the full bullpen to get through this stretch right now. And the guys will be able to still contribute to what they're doing. So, and then you may have a, hiccup here and there because you're playing against some good teams that are going to be playing good baseball, but that's just a game, man. You play 27 outs and play 9 innings for a reason. And that is very good for this opportunity for the bullpen and the pitching staff in itself to kind of hold the line. It's going to be critical to understand that, you can't argue all the balls and strikes. You can't be getting kicked out of games because it impacts the game, man. So, and I know it's going to be tough and it's a stretch that's going on, And the Padres got to be able to hold their situation in the standings and against some very quality baseball teams coming up.
Yeah, and that starts with the Giants. And look, no rest for the weary. This gauntlet starts very, very, very difficult right out the gate. They go against the great Logan Webb today, one of the best pitchers in the National League. He's who opens. On Tuesday, they face Landon Roop, who's an impressive young righty with a really, really good curveball. Then Wednesday, you get Kyle Harrison, who's got electric stuff from the left side. And Thursday, you go against Robbie Ray, who, by the way, without a whole lot of fanfare, has returned to Cy Young Award form. He's 7-1 with a 2.43 ERA. The Padres, again, you open up against one of the best pitchers in baseball, a really promising young righty in the second game, and then 2 electric lefties to finish out the series. Mike, you've spent a lot of time. You played a lot of games in Oracle Park.
Yeah.
Park, then AT&T Park, and now Oracle Park. Look, there's some big gaps in there. You know, it's not a place where it's easy to hit a lot of home runs. What do you think, in your experience, what is the best approach to take when you're facing really good arms in this ballpark? Because you've lived it. What is the best approach to take?
Well, Kyle, one of the things that you have to understand is like at nighttime, the ball doesn't travel there because it's kind of cool there. So, I mean, your body will be good, but you're not going to be stretching out and hitting balls dead center and right field. If they do, then they're probably going to be checking you out, testing you or whatever you do. It's a tough place. I mean, it's a tough place to score runs.
Yeah.
But what makes it even more impressive what Barry used to do there. But it's a place that when you, especially considering you're facing the type of pitching that you have, you're going to have to be able to string together some good at bats to get some opportunities. And as we said early on, it's important for guys who are able to, you know, get the offense in motion with the running game and stuff like that. Those things are very pivotal. Also, I keep using that word for some reason. I don't know why today, but it's definitely helpful when you have that. But so they got a great catcher over there in San Francisco too. So. And Patrick Bailey. So, you know, that makes it very difficult for you to score runs against them. But, you know, if the Pods go in there and they are playing consistent baseball and they start to put together some quality at bats together, then they can do it amongst anyone. They don't really, and the Padres, I mean, the Giants, they don't really walk a lot of guys either. So you're going to have to go in there and try to find out what you're capable of doing in the beginning of this series starting tonight, man. They got a tough series in this one.
Yeah, no question. Look, they're going to have to be at their best. We talk about you're facing Logan Webb, Robbie Ray, Kyle Harrison during this series. The Giants not only have a great pitching staff, they're a really good defensive team with Matt Chapman and Willie Adames on the left side, Patrick Bailey behind the plate. There's no question this is going to be a challenging series, but look, this is what you want to see, kind of best on best. And it's going to be a good test for the Padres offense. And we'll find out a lot more about this offense. As we mentioned, some of their key guys are getting going at the right time. And we'll see if they're able to deliver and get this gauntlet started off on the right foot. Mike, thank you so much for joining me today. We appreciate your insight and expertise as always.
Definitely. Always good. Always good, Kyle.
All right, everyone. That'll do it for another edition of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. Go ahead and give us a review, like, subscribe. Please helps us out. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to talk baseball. You can find me on Twitter at Kyle A. Glaser. Find Mike Cameron as well at amcameron21. No, that's Heath Bell. 44. Sorry. Got the wrong number. mcameron44. We'd love to hear from you. Once again, thanks for watching and listening. We will see you later this week.